Reading Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, 2nd chapter, text 20. Taiva, Chani, Nara, Loka, Vira, Ya, Ahavi, Krishna, Mukaravindam, Netra, Vivanto, Dhyana Virabham, Parthastra, Putra, Padam, Apur, Asya, Tathaiva Chani Naraloka Vira, Yahave Krishna Mukaravindam,
Ke ahave Krishna Mukaravindam,
Netra Vivanti Narana Virabham, Prithastra Putta Paramaparasya, Tathaiva Chani Naraloka Vira, Yahave Krishna Mukaravindam, Netra Vivanto Nayana Pirabham, Parastra Putta Padamaprasya, Tathaiva Chani Naraloka Vira, Yahave Krishna Mukaravindam, Netra Vivanto Nirabham Brahmam, Parthastra Putta Paramaprasya,
Tathaiva Chanye Naraloka Vira,
Tathaiva Chani Naraloka Vira,
Yahave Krishna Mukaravindam,
Yahave Krishna Mukaravindam,
Netrai Pibanto Nayanabhirama,
Netra Vivanto Nirana Brahmam,
Parthastra Putta Padamapurasya,
Parthastra Putta Paramapurasya,
Tathaiva Chanye Naraloka Vira,
Tathaiva Chani Naraloka Vira,
Yahave Krishna Mukaravindam,
Yahave Krishna Mukaravindam,
Mitrai Pibanto Nayanabhiramam,
Netra Vivanto Nirana Brahmam,
Arthastra Putta Padam Apurasya,
Prithastra Putta Padam Apurasya,
Tathaiva Chanye Naraloka Vira,
Tathaiva Chani Naraloka Vira,
Ya Ave Krishna Mukaravindam,
Yahave Krishna Mukaravindam,
Netrai Pibanto Nayanabhiramam,
Netrai Pibanto Nirana Brahmam,
Parthastra Putra Padamapurasya,
Parthastra Putta Paramapurasya,
Tathaiva Chanye Naraloka Vira,
Tathaiva Chani Naraloka Vira,
Ya Ahave Krishna Mukaravindam,
Yahave Krishna Mukaravindam,
Nitrai Pibanto Nayanabhiramam,
Netrai Pibanto Nirana Brahmam,
Parthastra Putta Param Apurasya,
Parthastra Putta Paramapurasya,
Taivachanye Naralokavira
Tatai Vachanye Naralokavira
Ya Ahave Krishna Mukaravindam
Yahave Krishna Mukaravarindam
Netrai Pibanto Nayanabhiramam
Netra Pibanto Niranpiramam
Bhartastra Puta Param Apurasya
Parthashtraputa Param Aparasha. Hey, great. So everyone chanted or word by word synonyms. Tata, as also. Evacha, and certainly. Anye, others. Nara, Loka, human society. Vira, fingers. Fighters. Yea, those. Ahave, on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Krishna, Lord Krishna's. Mukha Aravindam, face like a lotus flower. Netra, with the eyes. Pibanta, while seeing. Nayana Apramamam, very pleasing to the eyes. Partha, Arjun. Asta, Puta, purified by arrows. Padam, abode. Apu, achieved. Asya, of him. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Certainly others who were fighters on the battlefield of Kurukshetra were purified by the onslaught of Arjun's arrows. Jai Gaura Nitai Ki Jai. And while seeing the lotus-like face of Krishna, so pleasing to the eyes, they achieved the abodes of the Lord. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, appears in this world for two missionary purposes: to deliver the faithful and to annihilate the miscreants. But because the Lord is absolute, his two different kinds of actions, although apparently different, are ultimately one and the same. His annihilation of a person like Shishupal is as auspicious as his actions for the protection of the faithful. All the warriors who fought against Arjuna, but who were able to see the lotus-like face of the Lord on the battlefront, achieved the abode of the Lord exactly as the devotees of the Lord do. The words pleasing to the eyes of the seer are very significant. When the warriors from the other side of the battlefield saw Lord Krishna at the front, they appreciated his beauty, and the dormant instinct of love of God was awakened. Shishupal saw the Lord also, but he saw him as an enemy, and his love was not awakened. Therefore, Shishupal achieved oneness with the Lord by emerging in the impersonal glare of his body, called the Brahman Jyoti. Others who were in the marginal position, being neither friends nor enemies, but slightly in love of Godhead by appreciating the beauty of his face, were at once promoted to the spiritual planets, the Vaikunthas. The Lord's personal abode is called Goloka Vrindavan, and the abodes where his plenary expansions reside are called the Vaikunthas, where the Lord is present as Narayan. Love of Godhead is dormant in every living entity, and the entire process of devotional service unto the Lord is meant for awakening this dormant, eternal love of Godhead. But there are degrees of such transcendental awakening. Those whose love of God is awakened to the fullest extent go back to the Goloka Vrindavan planet in the spiritual sky, whereas persons who have just awakened to love of Godhead by accident or association are transferred to the Vaikuntha planets. Essentially, there's no material difference between Goloka and Vaikuntha. But in the Vaikunthas, the Lord is served in unlimited opulence, where in Goloka, the Lord is served in natural affection. This love of God is awakened by the association of pure devotees of the Lord. Here the word Parastrastraputa is significant. Those who saw the beautiful face of the Lord on the battlefield of Kurukshetra were purified first by Arjuna when he made his onslaught with arrows. The Lord appeared for the mission of diminishing the burden of the world, and Arjuna was assisting the Lord by fighting on his behalf. Arjuna personally declined to fight, and the whole instructions of the Bhagavad Gita was given to Arjuna to engage him in the fight. As a pure devotee of the Lord, Arjuna agreed to fight in preference to his own decision, and thus Arjuna fought to assist the Lord in his mission of diminishing the burden of the world. All the activities of a pure devotee are executed on behalf of the Lord, because a pure devotee of the Lord has nothing to do for his personal interest. Arjuna's killing was as good as killing by the Lord himself. As soon as Arjuna shot an arrow at an enemy, that enemy would become purified of all material contaminations and become eligible to be transferred to the spiritual sky. Those warriors who appreciated the lotus feet of the Lord and saw his face at the front had their dormant love of God awakened, and thus they were transferred at once to Vaikuntha Loka, not to the impersonal state of Brahman Jyoti, as was Sishupal. Sishupal died without appreciating the Lord, while others died with appreciation of the Lord. Both were transferred to the spiritual sky, but those who awakened the love of God were transferred to the planets of the transcendental sky. Uddhava seemingly lamented that his own position was less than that of the warriors on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, because they had attained to Vaikuntha, whereas he remained to lament the disappearance of the Lord. So that's the humble position of the devotee Uddhava. He's placing the warriors on the battlefield of Kurukshetra above himself. So yeah, that was something that was mentioned, that he can appreciate that he was remaining here in the material world while the fighters on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, although they were neither enemies, neither in love of Godhead, right, they still were transferred to the Vaikuntha Lokas. Whereas that even a greater position than that is Sishupal. As Sishupal, he was an enemy of the Lord, didn't have any appreciation for Krishna, entered into the Brahman Jyoti. So that's the position of all the demons that are killed by Krishna. They enter into the Brahman Jyoti. There's descriptions about that in Krishna book, how the spiritual soul of the demon rose into the sky until like Krishna was visible, and they saw the spiritual effulgence enter into the body of Krishna, like that. So there's a description there. So that's actually great. To the impersonalist yogis, they artificially control the senses and the mind. Take mona, silence, and fasting, and study the Vedanta to try to merge into the impersonal absolute. Try to understand the Supreme in an impersonal way, nadi, not this, not that. So, but here the demons are getting that position just by being able to be killed by Krishna, right? But for the devotee, the Brahman Jyoti, that's hellish. No desires, no activity, becoming homogeneously one with the white light. Although it's still a material activity, actually, it's considered to be material. But it's much better than the... it's a step higher than material sinful activity. Pious activity, sinful. Pious and material activity, be free from delusion and duality, right? And so in the spiritual world, in Vaikuntha Lokas, form exists. It's a spiritual form. Prabhupada was talking about this, that if you were to say the words water, right, in the material world, the sound water, the name or the label water, and the actual substance of water itself are not the same. But in the spiritual world, they are the same. So you can actually have your thirst quenched by chanting water, or having the water, like that, thinking of the water. So that's the same thing about hearing about Krishna, speaking about Krishna. Shravanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Archivandanam Dasam becoming Krishna's devotee, hearing about Krishna. So that was one thing that the class on this verse that I listened to. They're saying that Krishna is imbued in his words, right? So he was saying that, well, first, there's a verse of Srimad Bhagavatam in the first canto that all that's troublesome in the heart is eradicated, is destroyed, and everything that you hear in Srimad Bhagavatam, heard and chanted from a pure devotee in the proper channels and proper devotional attitude, one's heart becomes pleased and satisfied. Right, so they were saying that, so each verse, Krishna is imbued in each verse. So he's saying, lovingly chant the Sanskrit mantras and read the translations when you read in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada's books. Because Krishna's love of Godhead is imbued in the Sanskrit, in the shlokas. So Krishna is non-different from words about Krishna or words by Krishna, such as Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's words, or Srimad Bhagavatam, words about Krishna, and non-different from his form or his qualities and characteristics. So it's on the absolute platform, on the absolute plane. So we can be assured of that our hearts are being purified. He said we may not see it, but he said just like when you're on a plane, and the plane's actually going really very fast, right? And the cars down on the street, they're only going, 30 miles an hour or so, right? And they've got to stop at the stop sign and the street light, the red light. But the plane keeps on going, right? It's going too fast. It doesn't have to stop. It doesn't have to obey by the traffic laws on the ground. But when you're in the plane, you don't feel like you're moving at all, right? Yeah. If anybody's actually flew, it's actually really transparent. You kind of feel a little motion, kind of like a little bit like in a car or something, but you don't really feel like you're going as fast as this plane is actually going fast with jet speed engines, right? So he said it's like that. So we're being purified. We're going back home, back to Godhead, and it's at an accelerated level, but we don't notice it. We don't feel it. But we're becoming purified in a very, very short period of time, relatively. In the process of devotional service. When we begin the process of devotional service from the beginning, we're placed on the transcendental platform like that. And then under the instructions of the spiritual master, then we control our senses, study Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, hear from the devotees. And all that is pleasing to the heart, is awakened, in the submissive hearer. So he was talking about how Maharaj Prishket, he was humble. He just took the curse from the Brahmana boy. His name was Shringi. He didn't try to counteract the curse or transfer the curse. He just accepted the curse, although he was a great king. And he was even when he was a child, he was playing with dolls of Krishna, and he was always thinking of Krishna. He saw Krishna was in the womb, and he was always thinking about Krishna. So now all of a sudden, because he garlanded a yogi who was in trance with a snake because he was thirsty, he wasn't received properly at the house of the Brahmana. Just for one offense, now in 7 days, he's going to lose his life. He'll lose it. He'll leave his body like that. So he wasn't thinking, well, I'm such a great devotee, I don't deserve this. Like that. So he said that, and that's the whole basis of Srimad Bhagavatam. Is that Sukadeva Goswami, he arrives and he speaks what he heard from his father, Srila Vyasadeva. Srila Vyasadeva compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam as the Bhakti Vedanta text, not just the Vedas. After he compiled the Vedas, Srila Vyasadeva was dissatisfied. He wasn't satisfied yet. So Narada Muni mentioned to him, he says, well, you haven't mentioned anything about devotional service. So write exclusively on the subject matter of devotional service to Krishna directly, not in an indirect way. Like that. The Vedas, they're describing the Supreme in an indirect way, and if anything about devotional service actually mentioned, it's indirect. It was interpreted incorrectly in the past. Buddha, he decried the Vedas, so that they were eating meat under the misinterpretation of what the Vedas had mentioned for animal sacrifice, and they had this distorted view of the Vedic culture. So that's what Srimad Bhagavatam is. Vyasadeva compiled these specific texts, the Bhaktivedanta text, exclusively about devotional service to Krishna. So it's about Krishna and Krishna's incarnations, about Krishna's devotees, and all of the subject matter, all of the mysteries or the science of the Vedas. They are all taught in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So the Srimad Bhagavatam also contains all of the knowledge of the Vedas as well. Like that, like the Supreme, he doesn't have any material hands, but he has spiritual hands. So he's not nirguna, but he's also saguna, like that. So, as the impersonalists want to say is, he has no arms, he has no legs, he has no eyes, he has nothing then, right? But the flip side of that is that he has transcendental senses that can perform the functions of all the other senses. So they're not limited like our senses are limited. And let's see, so that was the thing that they were speaking about. It's a nice word in this verse. What was that? Mukachara Vindam, Krishna's lotus face. Yeah. Ravavindam, Mukha Ravindam. Yeah, I keep thinking about Charnavindam, and that's Krishna's lotus feet. Right. So you have Krishna's lotus face. Mukha Ravindam. Let me look that up here. Sorry, guys, it was mentioning that. Yeah, Mukha Aravindam. Yeah, Mukha Aravindam. So Krishna's lotus face. And so those soldiers that got to see that, they were elevated to the Vaikuntha Lokas. Now in the Vaikuntha Lokas, they received the same opulence as the Lord. So there's only just a few different details, like they don't have the Marka Shrivas, is exclusively only meant for Vishnu, or Vishnu Tattva, or the Kastuba Jam, but in every other respect, they resemble the Lord, have the same opulence of the Lord. There's servitorship and neutrality and awe and reverence, right? And then when you get into more personal aspects of Krishna and Goloka Vrindavan, then you have friendship and parental affection and conjugal love for Krishna. But in all cases, they're always thinking and serving the Supreme Lord. We have the opportunity, the highest boon, to go directly to Goloka Vrindavan, where the highest aspects of love of God are present. It's more natural. It's our original position. There are unlimited Vaikuntha Lokas. Krishna tries to take an inventory of himself. And then as soon as he understands himself and he has this inventory, then he's already unlimitedly already expanded again. So Lord Seshanaga has millions of forms in the material world and millions of the universes, and he has multiple heads. And he's always chanting the glories and the names and pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he never chants the same verses twice. And he's been going on doing this since time immemorial, since eternity. This material world is manifest and unmanifest eternally. So this has been going on. And he never comes to an end. He never chants, never repeats the same activity and same qualities and names, and never comes to an end. So this is Krishna's position, is that Krishna in the spiritual world is ever expanding. In fact, spiritual time is different from material time, where material time takes everything away. We come into being, remain for some time, dwindle, gradually vanish. But in the spiritual world, everything becomes newer and fresher again, younger, newer, fresher, younger, more ecstatic, more spiritual ecstasy increased. So it acts in a whole different way. It doesn't take everything away. But Prabhupada was talking about how Krishna's activities in the material world are like a transcendental roadshow. So as soon as one activity ends and then the next pastime begins, then on another planet where Krishna is being manifest, that Leela becomes manifest there, like that. So he was talking about how in many different places all over the world, at the exact same time, we are experiencing all over the world. One part of the world is daytime, another part of the world is nighttime, right? And another part of the world is early in the morning. So he's saying if it's 12 noon here, then another part of the world where it's 12 midnight, or another part of the world it's 10 p.m., and another part of the world it's 7 a.m. So he was saying just like that, is that how Krishna's Leelas are being manifested on all of the other different planets where he's visible. Just like clockwork, like that. So that was, and he was saying also just like the seasons. We have the 4 seasons: winter, spring, summer, fall. So it's also like that too. How his leelas are rotating. And let's see, did we have any points of discussion or any questions or anything? Or?
Hare Krishna. You said that Krishna Loka or Goloka Vrindavan is like our natural position.
Right, that's our original natural position.
So someone who goes to the Vaikuntha planets, what to speak of them? Do they have an opportunity to go further?
Yeah, from what I heard, from what I understand, they have opportunities to continue to go higher and higher spiritual planets. I don't know exactly how that works or what the details are on that, but I've heard that they have that opportunity. They engage in the Lord's pastimes, like that. Who was it? Jai and Vijay. They were the gatekeepers, and there was like 7 gates, and the 4 Kumars are going through all these gates, and they're all being described, with parks and park benches and swans and lakes, and all these gates, 7 gates. And then finally, the 7th gate, Jai not allowing the 4 Kumars to come in there, thinking, who are you? You're just undeveloped children. How did you even get here anyways in the first place? So they took birth as demons. They had the opportunity, the choice. Take birth, 3 births as demons or 7 births as devotees. So they're kind of deliberating on that. Devotees that follow Lord Chaitanya, his most intimate associates, I believe like Shrup, Ravinda, let's see, Swarup Damodar, Ravinda, who is there? There's also a devotee named Mukunda, or there was a lot of devotees in Chaitanya Charitamrita that are intimate associates of Krishna and intimate associates, eternal associates of Lord Chaitanya, and were cowherd boys, like that, and so they can travel and associate with Krishna in his various forms and incarnations, and engage even in battle with him, like that, And this way it's an internal relationship. It's not stagnant. They get to travel too. They get to do things, but it's not stagnant. It's ever increasing spiritual happiness, spiritual bliss. They don't get bored. Like that. So does that answer your question? Do you have the? If there was like a gradual process of like worship or something, or the purification, because maybe Maharaj might have some more details on that than I have. Did you have a comment or a question on that, or how the elevated, liberated souls in the Vaikuntha lokas can elevate themselves to Krishna loka, or the higher and higher spiritual transcendental planets?
With your permission, maybe I'll just say a small phrase.
Oh, sure.
Comment. In this purport, Prabhupada states that the perfectional state has been achieved by both the residents of the planets, but there are gradations in the perfectional quality, or the degree of perfection. So, on the perfectional status, there's different degrees, and some devotees eternally reside on the Vaikuntha lokas also, because that's their natural desire. That's their eternal desire, is to serve in that capacity. In general, the followers of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are generally moving towards the Goloka planet, and we are following Srila Prabhupada and this parampara, and he's asking us to develop that full love which has been distributed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So because of our you hear in the Bhagavatam there's many devotees, and some of those devotees are placed at a particular time, and they're described as going back to Vaikuntha. Like Dhruva Maharaj gets taken back to Vaikuntha Loka with his mother. So depending on, the time or when we take birth, what process we practice, and what knowledge is there, who is our spiritual masters, like that, we have, the Lord is arranging perfectly. So that we can awaken our real eternal identity.
Thank you.
Wasn't exactly about transferring from Vaikuntha to Goloka, but just some points about it.
Yeah, I think it's in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita that kind of mentions that process. But yeah, I can Google it up and look it up and Google it up, and maybe put the results on WhatsApp. Yeah. Okay, Jay. Any other questions or comments? Hey, Srimad Bhagavatam class ki jai. The Prabhupada ki jai.